Hello, my name is Sean Avanis. I'm with MultiTech, and today we're going to talk about getting a gateway connected to an expedite LoRa sensor. From unboxing your gateway, you take it out of the box, and that's kind of where we're going to start. So moving forward, like I mentioned, I'm Sean Avanis. Intro, basically what we're going to do today is take the gateway, configure the gateway, get it connected to a Chirpstack LoRa network server, which is hosted from Radio Bridge, and then on the Radio Bridge console, we're going to send information from our expedite to the console, and the console is going to do a decode. Here are some terms we're going to talk about. I'll go into more detail throughout this video on these terms. This is what our gateway looks like. This is the CDT gateway, and that's what we're going to be working with today. Prerequisites, the only thing we really need for this are the cables to connect things up and some kind of terminal program. I'm going to be using TerraTerm here, but you're welcome to use PuTTY. PuTTY is just as good. So setting up the gateway, just a little bit of going over some of the ports on the device. This is the LoRa antenna. You'll put your LoRa antenna connected here. That's included in the box. Your power adapter will plug in here, and then we're going to hook a wired Ethernet to the device. So you're going to hook a wired Ethernet to the device, and that's going to plug directly into your PC or your laptop. And we're going to power up the gateway just by plugging in the power. It takes about 3 to 4 minutes for the gateway to boot up. It boots up Linux. And on the front of the gateway, there's the second LED is the status light. And while it's booting, it stays a solid green. Once it's booted, it will start blinking. So after it starts blinking, I still give it maybe 30 seconds. So after the device has been blinking, let's say for 30 seconds, and your Ethernet cable is connected, we're going to go to a browser, and we're going to enter 192.168.2.1. So what's happening here is the gateway is performing a DHCP server function, and it's assigning an IP to your laptop. It's going to make it something like 192.168.2.2 or 2.3, something like that. But when we go to 1, it's going to go to the web interface on the gateway. The problem is Chrome has security features where they don't want you to connect to a web page that doesn't have a certificate or a web page that is not HTTPS. The gateway's web interface does not have either of the two, and it warns you once, but it's okay to proceed directly to go to the gateway. So once we go to the gateway, the very first thing you're going to do is go into commission mode, and it's going to ask for a username. This is a username that you define. I'm going to kind of keep following the guide here. So you can enter anything you like. I'm going to use admin for this tutorial. And after I enter that, it's going to ask for a password. And this is a password you give it that's unique to you. I'm going to add one in here, but you can make yours whatever you like. There are rules that are listed here below. So many characters. It can't be dictionary based. So it's not looking for common words like winter or password or things like that. It's got to be something unique. And then it asks for a second time to verify your password. So after you've entered your username and password and verified your password, this will be the first time you log into the gateway. So I'm going to use my credentials that I just set up and log into the gateway. Back to the how-to guide. So we verified the password. And once it boots up, you're going to see this first time wizard setup screen. We're going to go through this setup screen here. Next. We're going to skip some of these for now. We can configure them later. These are just some quick guides to get you started. The date and the time, you can put the date and the time. Let's see, it's probably 10:12 right now. It's 7:20, 7:20. And the time I have is 10:22, 10:22, and I'm in the Eastern time zone. Okay, I'm going to leave the network settings as default. We're not going to configure cellular, so we're going to skip that step. We're going to skip this step. And this is something I do want to enable because it makes it easier when you're trying to configure the gateway. So we're going to enable remote management, and what you have to do is go to the website Device HQ, which I have documented in the starter guide. There's a link to it here. So there's a link right here to go to Device HQ. It's devicehq.com. It's pretty easy. And the first time you go to this, you're going to have to register your account. So just enter all this information. It'll send you an email, and you'll define a password, and then jump right in. So after you've done that, sign in for the first time. If you go to this corner over here, and this is all documented in the document, go to account information, and inside of here is your key. So I'm going to copy that key, and then when we go back over here, I'm going to paste that key. So we want to have this enabled and paste this key in here, and then we click next. We'll configure this later. And then boot protection, this is optional. So after all this is done, it'll come up and it'll show the status of the gateway. And currently it's showing our IP is 2.1, that's the IP we're on. Page through here. This is the steps I mentioned, enabling and entering that code. Again, that's optional, but it will help us out later in the tutorial. So the next thing you want to do is save and apply. And that's in this upper left-hand corner. I'm going to click on that. It asks, do you want to confirm? You say yes. This takes a second. Some of the changes we make are going to reboot the gateway. This one did not. And the reason we had to do that is because we made those initial wizard for a couple of those parameters. So now everything's set up and the gateway is running. The next thing we're going to do is check the firmware. If you're version 5.3 or if you're version below 5.3, we're going to have to upgrade the gateway. And inside the tutorial I have, I kind of point that out. And if you do need to upgrade the gateway, the process is you download it from this location. I'm going to just click on it. So these are the downloads. 6.0 is the latest. You would download this file. It's downloading it now. And once that's downloaded, it's a zip file. So you open up the zip file and then uncompress it. It'll create a directory for you. And these are the two files that are in there. There's a release notes on different rev levels, and then the signed bin that you would send to the gateway to upgrade it to 6.0. After that's done, you go to Administrative Tools and Firmware Upgrade. So that would be Administrative, Firmware Upgrade. Choose an upgrade file, and you would specify this bin file that we just downloaded. Mine's already the current version, so I'm not going to upgrade it, but that's the process for upgrading it. What it would do, it would download the file. It'll ask you if you want to reboot, you reboot, and it'll be at 6.0. But if you're 5.3 or higher, you're fine for this. If you just want to upgrade to 6 to have the latest, you're welcome to do that. Okay. So we're stepping through it here. Now the goal is to get our gateway online. We have different options for getting our gateway online. We can do it with a wired Ethernet port, and that's currently how we're connected. Currently, the device, like I mentioned, it's a DHCP server, and it's given your laptop an IP address. We want to change that so it's a DHCP client, so we can connect to your access point on your network. Another option is we can connect to a Wi-Fi network, where we can specify the SSID of the Wi-Fi access point that we have, and then we enter a password. We change a couple parameters, and then the device is now on Wi-Fi. The nice thing about doing it on Wi-Fi is you still have this wired Ethernet connection where you can find the IP address. So however you prefer. This first step, I'm going to configure it for a wired Ethernet. So I'm going to go back into this, look at setup, and you can currently see that the Ethernet is in bridge mode, and it's bridging with this bridge, which is currently IP of 192.168.2.1, and that's what we're interfacing with this web interface right now. So as we move, I can click on the Ethernet little pencil mark on here to edit it, and I want to make it a WAN, and I want my IP address to go from static mode to DHCP client. So after I've made those changes, I hit submit. So those changes have been submitted, but they haven't been implemented because this box over here is still in red. So those changes are set up for DHCP client, and it's going to remember those settings as we move to other options. So those are the steps we just did to do that. I'm going to jump to the next section, but I just want to show you if we were doing Wi-Fi, we would go to the Wi-Fi section, enable Wi-Fi, and then it's going to make you reboot after you do a save and apply. And then when we go back in, it'll automatically show all the networks that are on your all the SSIDs that are in your area, and you hit plus on the one you want to connect to, you enter your key, hit save and apply, and you're all set. So we are going to add a cellular tutorial soon. I didn't have a sim with me, so I wasn't able to add that to this document, but I will in the future. So the next thing we want to do is make sure we can access the device with the web interface. So what we'll do is we'll go to access configuration under administrative. So that's under here, access configuration. And what we need to do is specify via WAN here and via WAN here. It's going to give you a warning. Just ignore that. And then we're going to come down here and hit submit down here. So those changes have been made. I'm going to scroll down. These are those warnings I gave you. So what's going to happen now is we're going to do a save and apply. It's going to ask to reboot after we do that. So step through that. Save and apply. Confirm your changes. And then it's going to prompt and say we're going to have to reboot. Okay, reboot the device. I'm going to pause this video while we're rebooting the device. So now your device should have rebooted, and after it reboots, you have to identify the IP address that your access point or your smart switch gave the device. There's multiple ways of doing that. The one I recommend first is using Device HQ if you enabled that while we did the Quick Start Wizard. So in order to use that, we'll go to the Device HQ website. We'll log in, and you can click on all your devices. You're probably only going to see one. This is mine, and it shows I logged in 4 minutes ago. That's when my device reboot. And if I click on the device info, it actually shows the IP address that my DHCP server or your DHCP server gave it. So it's 192.168.0.24. Another way to do this is going into your router's or your router's lookup table. And you could see in here, there's some blank ones on here. I've used it on different gateways. Some of them will say MultiTech right here. These are the blank ones. These are individual gateways that I have on here. You'll see that the IP address or the MAC address that MultiTech uses is 000800. If all the devices that start with that, here's another gateway, probably have IP addresses. And if this is your first time using our gateway, it's probably the only one you have. So you can see that my IP address is 24. I kind of go through these steps in here. I mentioned these are the MAC addresses associated with the IP addresses. Another way to do this is connecting a serial cable to the debug port, which is under the door, setting up a TerraTerm session, and logging into Linux, and then doing an ifconfig to look at the devices. I have a share term session here. So the very first time you log in to the terminal type application, in the tutorial I mentioned to check your serial port, make sure it's set for 115.8N1. The login is what you use for the web interface, with the login username you used, and then the password you defined. So once I'm in, I can enter the Linux command ifconfig, and it shows the ports that are currently active, and you can see that Ethernet 0 is connected to 192.168.24. Well, those are a few ways to get an IP off your address or from your device. Kind of walk through each of those. There's another method. This is a little more painful. You can use ARP-A to look for all the IPs that your laptop currently is seeing out there. The problem is you need to ping all the devices in the subnet. So it would be 192.68.0.1, then .2, then .3. I would have to go to 24 to see my IP. And since I've already connected to it, you'll see it. So if I enter ARP-A, you can see 24 is here, and that's the MAC address for that device. So that's another method of getting to it. So once we know the IP, you can go to your web browser and then enter the IP address. I mentioned it's 24. So my page came right up, but sometimes if it's a new IP address, say if your browser hasn't been there before, you'll get that same error that it's not safe to proceed, and then you click advanced and then proceed with that IP address, and then it'll ask for a login. It'll ask for your login information to go to that web page. So you can see that my IP address on here is 192.68.24. So currently we're up and running. Everything's good. The next thing we're going to do is configure the gateway to become a LoRa packet forwarding device with Chirpstack LNS. So for that, we go to LoRaWAN. It's right here. And currently it's disabled. So what we want to do is do packet forwarding. And then the network we want to choose is Radio Bridge Chirpstack. And then I click submit. After I click submit, it's been updated. So if we give it a second here, I'm going to do a save and apply up here. It's going to make those changes. And after these changes are made, we're going to see that window with this packet forwarding go from stopped to running, and it'll turn green. And really, that's all it takes to set up packet forwarding. All right, see, so now it shows it's running. So we're now packeting forward, or we're forwarding packets. So any LoRa network that gets near that gateway and transmits a join command or trying to send packets, this gateway is going to send them to the Chirpstack server, and the Chirpstack server is going to determine if these packets are meant for me or not meant for me. And if they are, they'll process them accordingly. So we walk through this. One other thing I wanted to mention is if we go into LoRa card information, this is the unique ID for this gateway that we're going to have to use later in configuring the Chirpstack server. So I'm going to hit this little clipboard here, and it's going to copy it to the clipboard. So we're going to need that. We'll probably come back in the next section and do that again. So setting up the console with Radio Bridge. First thing we're going to do is go to the website. When you go to the console, I'm already logged in. Log out. It's going to ask you to log in. If you don't have an account, go down here and create an account. We'll click on that. And basically, you enter your information or register. You want to create an account. So after you've created an account, it'll send you an email. You'll define your login, your password, and then you'll log in. So once we're logged in, we're going to go to the gateway section. And again, we're following this guide here. Stepping ahead a little bit here. We're going to go to gateway, add a gateway. deleted mine ahead of time. So we go to add gateway, and we're going to define it as a Chirpstack gateway. You give it a gateway name. I'm going to call mine Sean's Gateway. And then for the gateway unique address, that's where we go back. Like I mentioned, we probably, if it's already in there, go to LoRaWAN and open up this to say show, and then copy and paste this, and that goes right into this section here. One thing, it doesn't like the dashes, so you have to get rid of these dashes. A region is going to, you have a choice of Europe or US. We're going to choose US 915. And then the IP address, this is unique. So I can set this IP address to be the local IP address on my network. But if you're using LoRa, if you're using a cellular network and you have a private IP address, you can directly connect to that IP address. And this field's not that important, but it has to be put in. The only reason we're using this is to get access directly to the device. So I'm going to enter my 192.168.0.24. And then I'm just going to call it Sean's Gateway. Register gateway. Oh, just one word here. Okay, it says your device has been registered. So last seen, that it currently, it hasn't been seen, but it takes about 60 seconds for it to communicate. Sometimes you get refresh. There we go. So the gateway's already connected. So our gateway is now connected to the Radio Bridge console, and the two are communicating. So these are the steps we just went through. Gateway, gateway, Chirpstack. We put this information, we copied the UI, we took out the dashes, told it US. We specified that IP. I kind of document a little bit in this file. Register gateway, and then I mentioned do a refresh, and it'll come up. So our gateway's connected to the Radio Bridge Chirpstack console. The Chirpstack console is currently working. So the next thing we're going to do is set up our mDot. So your mDot looks like this. It's got a there's two versions, a surface mount version and a through-hole version. On the development kit, it looks like this, and then with the two together, it looks like this. So you can plug that directly into your PC. I'm going to do that right now. When you first plug it in, a couple things happen. It enumerates the device as a drive. So in my case, it's drive D. It might be different in your system. And it also gives it a couple IP addresses. I mean, it gives it a couple COM port addresses. So you can see where it brought it up as a drive. And if we go into Device Manager, right here, it's going to show me the COM ports that are currently available on my system. So I have a COM 14 and a COM 7. So if your terminal program doesn't support showing all the available COM ports, you should just specify 7 or 14. So I'm going to use TerraTerm, and when you use TerraTerm, set up a new connection. I could specify COM 7 or COM 14. Let's try. It creates two. So the first one's one of them is a console where you can. It's an output window where when you send commands, it outputs to that window, and the other one's a command line interpreter where you enter AT commands to make the device do different things. So I'm going to try COM 7 first. So we're in, and I'm going to make sure my serial port is set up correctly. 115.2, 8, and 1. So that's set up correctly. And I'm going to clear the screen here. So if I enter AT or if I do anything right now, I don't see anything. So this was the output window. So I'm going to open up another connection. And this is going to be on COM 14. It's the only one I have left because I'm using COM 7. That's set up. Again, verify your, oops, I clicked on the wrong window. It's this window. So verify that your serial port's set up right. 115, 8N1, and enter AT. So I just got a response. It's AT, okay. So I'm now talking to my expedite over the command line interpreter. So we go back to the guide. I mentioned those baud rates. I mentioned seeing that okay. And one option you have to look at all the individual commands, I could type help here, and it shows me all the AT commands available to me and their settings. And I think you can ask for help on these individual commands, and it gives you different parameters for those commands. So the first command we're going to enter is the ATI. So if I enter ATI, it shows the version of my mDot, and it's 4.1.5. If it's less than 4, we're going to have to upgrade it. Mine's currently 1.4, but we'll walk through the steps to upgrade it. So upgrading the firmware, go to this link. mDots. So we're going to download version 1.45. And there's different versions for Europe, for the US. The one we're going to use is this US 15. And in my README document, I highlight that. So use this US version. Download it to your hard drive. It's in a bin format. And what you do is you drag and drop from that file directly to your device. So after we've downloaded it, I can look at my drives that I currently have. Here's drive D is my mDot. And then inside of downloads, I have that bin file. So what I would do is just drag and drop it directly in there. Mine's already upgraded, so I don't need to do it. But you just drag and drop it like this. It'll copy the file. It takes a couple seconds. And then the mDot will reboot itself. And when you go back into the terminal window, you enter that same command, ATI. And if you were at 1.0 or 2.0, you'll see that you're now at 4.15. So that's where we need to be to move forward. So that's done. That's where you verify it. Now we need to connect the mDot to the Radio Bridge console. So the first thing we need to do is open up the terminal that supports the AT commands. And the first command you want to type is this AT plus DI. And if I scroll up and we look at plus DI, it's to get device info. There it is right here. AT plus DI, it's the unique 64-bit, most significant bit, unique set factory, set by the factory. So I'm going to do that. AT plus DI. So you can see this is my unique device that we're going to need for the Radio Bridge console. 0.80.0 and E4 is my module. So go back to the tutorial. And what I recommend doing is using a text editor and cutting and pasting this information. So this is my information. This is my dot information. Use this network key, and then use this app UI. And those are the parameters we're going to have to cut and paste into the Radio Bridge console. And we're also going to have to cut and paste them into the command line interpreter. So after we've done that, these are the device. This is a list of the commands we're going to use to connect to the console. So I'm going to walk through them. First, we're going to do a factory reset. We're going to specify the frequency subband. We're going to say that it's a public network. And we're going into, there's two join modes. We can make a network mode 0, which is a manual configuration where I have to, every time I power up the device, I have to join, or AT1, every time I power up the device, it auto connects to the network. And once you're in production, that's what you want to do. AT device ID, that's the device that we defined up ahead. And the network address, that's the larger address that we have listed above, or the network key. And then the UI is listed above. These are the ones we cut and paste into that text file that we're going to need. Then we save configuration, and then we join. I'm missing the join command in here, but I'm going to add that. So this is what I would like to do with it, that you create in your text file is a script that looks just like this. So we can you can cut and paste this directly into that text editor. So you have it ready when we go to log in. So these are the commands we're going to use. I mentioned up here, your device ID will be different than mine because it's unique to every LoRa module that's out there. So yours won't end with E4, it's going to end with something else. But these are the commands we're going to type in the terminal to connect to the Radio Bridge console. So now we're ready to join. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to the console right here, and we're going to go to devices, and I delete my mDot. Okay, so the very first thing we're going to do is click add device, and then you're going to specify the network you're going to connect to. We've already set up a Chirpstack server connection, so we're going to specify Chirpstack here. Here's where you specify a name. This is up to you. Device ID, that's that unique ID that we just had in our text file. That's this guy right here. We copy and paste that. And then the device key is the next one we put in our text file. And then device type. In the console, you can specify if it's an mDot, xDot, or mDot. It's the same type interface. And then the join EUI 0101, that's this right here. Those both match. And then you specify if you're in Europe or US. So we're going to specify US at 915. And I'm going to hit continue. So it's verifying that information. I'm going to confirm it. And then I'm going to look at all of my devices. So I've connected before, so you see some information here, but I haven't connected since the 14th. And Radio Bridge, it's showing the last time it was connected was the 14th. So now we have the device defined on Radio Bridge console. And now we're going to connect to it. So if we go to our terminal window, I'm going to go back to the help file just so we can follow along with the help file. So we specified Chirpstack. We specified, I mentioned your name, device ID, device key that we cut and paste from that file. We did a confirm, view devices. Now we're actually going to connect to the network. So I had you cut and paste these documents, these commands, and we're going to step through those one at a time from our text bed. This number will be different. I want to keep re-emphasizing that. So I'm going to go to my text editor. First command I'm going to enter is AT. You can just type it or you can cut and paste it. So I'm going to enter AT. And then the next command is going to be AT and F for factory reset. Oops. F. Oops. That lowercase. And then public network. Okay. And then network join mode is going to be 1. And then I specify my unique device ID. And then my key. And then specify, I want to write. Okay. And then the last command, well, there's a couple commands after this, but AT join. When I do an AT join, that joins the network. So what's going to happen? We connect the first time. Sometimes you have to try it a couple times. Successfully joined. So we're now connected. So what's happening now is our mDot is connected to the gateway. The gateway is currently a forward packeter to Chirpstack on the Radio Bridge console. It's forwarding that LoRa packet up to the Chirpstack server in the Radio Bridge console. and the Radio Bridge console is reading that information, and any data that comes over that sensor, it's going to do a decode. So in here, I had one more command, this AT-NJS, that's network join status. If I specify that, it's going to say 1, that I'm connected. So the next command we're going to enter is a command to actually connect to the network. I mean, to send data to the network. And to do that, you type AT plus send equal, and then whatever you want to send. So hello world is always a good demo to start with. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to type AT plus send equals hello world. So sometimes there's a buffer, so I'm going to do it again. Okay, so it's sent that time. If you do get that error, just try it a second time. So if we go to the console, I'm going to go refresh on this. So now it says that my mDot was connected on July 20th at 11:03. That's what time it is right now in my time zone. And if I click on the actual device, you can see at 11:20 I sent the hello world text to it. So the data is getting to the cloud. So going through the tutorial, we kind of stepped through that. We got right to the hello world part, and that's kind of the end of the video. Hopefully this is helpful in getting you up to speed. If you have any problems, give us a call at MultiTech, and we'll help you with any of these steps. Thank you.